They say the truth sets you free. They never tell you what it costs. At 9:12 a.m., when the judge said my name, senior analyst Clara Hayes, the whole courtroom went still. My stepbrother's grin vanished. My mother's hand froze halfway to her pearls. Even my stepfather, who never missed a chance to look unimpressed, just stared. They all thought this was a family misunderstanding. They were wrong. This was federal. And I was done being quiet. From the outside, we looked perfect, the kind of suburban family people envied. White fence, manicured lawn, Christmas cards with forced smiles. My mother, Evelyn, built that illusion brick by brick. She believed peace meant silence. My stepfather, Thomas, played along. And my stepbrother, Daniel, her golden boy, stood proudly in the center of it all, her masterpiece. At dinners, she'd glow whenever he spoke. Daniel just got promoted again. She'd beam, eyes shining like it was a national holiday. Everyone clapped. Everyone laughed. Everyone but me. When I mentioned I'd completed a top-level federal certification, the kind few analysts ever earned, Thomas barely looked up from his plate. "That's nice, sweetheart," he said absently, patting my hand like I'd drawn a nice picture in kindergarten. "You stick to that safe government job." Safe. That word has a way of crawling under your skin. None of them knew what safe meant where I worked: windowless rooms, encrypted files, intelligence that could stop disasters before they began. But I'd learned early not to correct them. When you grow up as someone's extra child, you become fluent in quiet. You learn how to make yourself smaller, how to smile on cue, how to choke down your truth before it turns into noise. My mother used to say, "Clara, you think too much. Just enjoy life." But she didn't mean mine. She meant hers. Every holiday followed the same script. Daniel would show up late, smelling of whiskey, arms full of excuses. "Oh, Danny, I'm so glad you made it." Mom would gush, her voice all light and sugar. But when I once arrived 10 minutes late after a 12-hour shift, she sighed. "Punctuality says a lot about a person, Clara. You can live years inside someone else's double standard before realizing it's killing you." It wasn't that they hated me. Worse, they didn't see me. The moment that finally cracked something inside me came during a summer barbecue, the last one before everything broke. Daniel was bragging again, laughing with Thomas, beer in hand. My mother's laughter floated through the yard, bright and careless. I mentioned that my team had prevented an overseas cyber attack, a small victory but real. She smiled without looking at me. "You always make things sound so dramatic, Clara." "Just relax." Dramatic. That word stung. Like being accused of feeling too much in a house where no one felt anything real at all. That night I sat outside with a mug of black coffee, the air thick and humming with crickets. Fireflies blinked above the grass. Somewhere inside, their laughter turned to television static. I realized that in my world, silence could save lives, but in this one, silence just protected lies. Something inside me shifted that night. It didn't break. It hardened. The next time my mother called me dramatic, it would be the last time. It happened on one of those heavy summer nights that smell like rain and whiskey. A crash from the kitchen. A voice slurred and sharp. "Daniel." When I walked in, the fridge light threw blue shadows across his face. The air reeked of alcohol. "Couldn't sleep, agent girl," he sneered. "Still think you're better than us?" I kept my voice steady. "You should go to bed, Daniel. You've had enough." He laughed, a short, cruel sound. "You think that little desk job makes you special? Mom says you hide behind it because no one wants you around." The words hit harder than they should have. Maybe because they sounded like hers. I turned away, gripping a towel, trying to end it. Then I heard the drawer slide open, the scrape of metal. He had a screwdriver in his hand. "Daniel, stop." He smiled wide and wrong. "You're so dramatic." He lunged. White-hot pain seared through my shoulder. The world tilted. I hit the floor, blood spreading under my fingers, and through the ringing in my ears came laughter. My mother's. "Oh, Daniel," she said somewhere in the haze. She probably slipped. "Clara, stop being so dramatic." I remember the ceiling spinning, her voice fading, and the quietest thought I've ever had: they'll never see me the same way again. And for once, I was right. When I woke up, the ceiling was white. Too white. That sterile shade only hospitals seem to get right, where even the air feels disinfected. My throat burned, my shoulder throbbed, and the steady beep of a monitor pulsed beside me like a metronome for the pain. For a moment, I couldn't remember what had happened. Then I saw the bandage, the bruises blooming across my arms, the 4-line taped to my wrist. And it came back, the screwdriver, Daniel's voice, my mother's laugh. My first thought wasn't I almost died. It was, did they tell the truth? The door opened. My mother walked in carrying flowers, lilies, her favorite, not mine. Her perfume hit before her words did. "Oh, Clara," she said softly, "you scared us half to death." Us. There it was again. The collective lie. I stared at her, waiting for something: guilt, fear, regret. But her expression was perfect, composed. "They said you slipped in the kitchen," she continued, smoothing her hair. "Daniel feels awful. He's been crying all night." I almost laughed. "Crying? Daniel?" My voice came out raw. "I didn't slip." She froze, just for a second. Then she smiled, that tight, practiced smile that used to make me feel small. "Sweetheart," she said, sitting at the edge of the bed, "you hit your head. You're confused. You always get things mixed up when you're upset." I turned away. "Get out." She didn't move. "Clara, let's not do this again. The family doesn't need another scene." Another scene. Like being stabbed was a performance. I looked her dead in the eyes. "You can lie to them, but you can't lie to me. He tried to kill me." Her mask slipped then, just a flicker of something hard and ugly. "Watch what you say," she whispered. "Daniel has a future. You'll destroy him with this nonsense." I felt my pulse spike, the monitor beeping faster. He destroyed enough on his own. She stood up, clutching her purse like it was armor. "You've always been dramatic, Clara. I'm warning you, if you start spreading stories, you'll regret it." Then she left. And for the first time, I didn't cry after she did. 2 days later, a detective came by. Detective Miles Grant, calm voice, sharp eyes, the kind of man who didn't waste words. He asked questions quietly, almost kindly. "Do you remember how you were injured?" "Yes," I said. "My stepbrother attacked me." He nodded once, like he'd already suspected. "And your mother?" "She called it an accident." He sighed. "That matches the initial report. But the forensics don't." That word, forensics, was the first breath of oxygen I'd had in days. He looked at me carefully. "Would you be willing to testify, Miss Hayes?" I didn't even hesitate. "Yes." That night, alone in the hospital room, I opened my laptop. I wasn't supposed to work, but old instincts kicked in. I started gathering everything I had: security footage from my home devices, text backups, even my stepbrother's financial records I'd glimpsed years ago while fixing Mom's computer. Patterns emerged. Money transfers. Shell accounts. Names that didn't belong in family spreadsheets. It wasn't just about violence anymore. It was corruption, laundering, maybe worse. I wasn't looking at a dysfunctional family. I was looking at a criminal one. For years I'd built firewalls and hunted threats for strangers. Now the danger had my last name. And I wasn't going to hide behind silence again. When they discharged me, I went back to my apartment, the one they always called that lonely little place. It had never felt safer. The wound in my shoulder still ached, but the pain was grounding. Real. I started documenting everything. Every memory, every lie, every moment of gaslighting that had ever made me doubt myself. It was like mapping a crime scene made of emotions. Then one evening, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text. "You're making a mistake, Clara. Family should stay family." No signature. But I knew the tone. Thomas. My hands trembled, not from fear this time, from fury. I typed back. "You should have thought of that before you raised a monster." I didn't send it. Not yet. Instead, I forwarded everything to Detective Grant. Files. Screenshots. Notes. If my family wanted silence, I'd give them something louder. Evidence. A week later, the subpoenas started. The bank accounts froze. The investigation expanded. Thomas called me once, left a voicemail, calm, rehearsed. "Clara, we can fix this quietly. Don't ruin what's left of this family." But there was nothing left to ruin. The day before the hearing, I got another message. This time from Daniel. A voice note, slurred, angry, desperate. You think you're better than us? You think anyone believes you? You'll see, Clara. You'll see how this ends. I played it 3 times. Then I saved it. Because for the first time, the truth was on my side and I wasn't afraid to let it speak. But fear has a way of finding you, even when you're sure you've outrun it. That night, as I lay in bed, the air thick with summer heat, I heard something soft, almost polite. 3 knocks. At my door. Slow. Deliberate. And when I looked through the peephole, there was no one there. The sound stayed with me. 3 slow knocks. Not frantic, not soft, just enough to say, I know you're there. I stood frozen in the dark, phone clutched tight, waiting for another sound. Nothing. No footsteps, no car engine. Just silence, the kind that presses against your ribs until you can't breathe. I told myself it was nothing. Just nerves, maybe the wind. But deep down I knew. Fear doesn't knock unless it knows your name. The next morning, Detective Grant called. There's been movement on the accounts, he said. Your stepfather tried to transfer funds offshore last night. We intercepted it. I felt a cold satisfaction. Good. He hesitated. Clara, has anyone contacted you directly? My throat tightened. Why? Because we believe someone might try to intimidate you before the hearing. I didn't answer. My silence was enough. He exhaled slowly. We'll assign an officer near your building. Just in case. That night I slept with the light on. My shoulder still ached, a pulsing reminder that Daniel's rage had left its mark. But this pain felt different now. It wasn't weakness, it was warning. A line carved into my skin, saying, don't go back. 2 days later, I returned to my mother's house for the first time since the attack, escorted by the police, to collect my things. The house looked smaller than I remembered. The white fence, the trimmed roses, all of it seemed staged, like a movie set left to decay after filming wrapped. Mom was waiting on the porch. Her eyes were red, but not from crying. Clara, she said, voice trembling just enough to sound rehearsed, you didn't have to bring them. I'm not here to argue, I said. I just need my stuff. She followed me inside. Every corner felt haunted by memory, birthdays, holidays, laughter that now sounded hollow. I paused by the kitchen counter. There, faint but visible, was a small dark stain on the floor where the screwdriver had fallen. Mom noticed my stare. We had the floors cleaned, she whispered. Accidents happen. I looked at her. Really looked. The woman who once tucked me in at night, who told me monsters weren't real. But they were. And she'd raised one. Do you ever feel guilty? I asked quietly. Her jaw tightened. I did what I had to do for this family. No, I said. You did what you had to do for him. Her eyes flashed. You don't understand, Clara. You've never been a mother. Maybe she was right. Maybe I didn't understand the kind of love that blinds you to evil. Or maybe I just refused to call it love. As I packed the last box, she stepped closer. You think this will end well for you, she hissed. Families survive scandals. Outsiders don't. I met her gaze. Then I guess I'm an outsider now. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching. Every sound outside felt sharper, the creak of a car door, the hum of streetlights, even the rustle of leaves. I double-checked the locks, drew the curtains, and tried to work, but my mind wouldn't stay still. When you've lived your whole life doubting yourself, fear becomes muscle memory. At 1:43 a.m., my phone buzzed. A new message. Unknown. Check your inbox. Against my better judgment, I did. There it was, an email with no subject line. Inside, a single attachment, a photo. It was my apartment building, taken from across the street. My window glowing in the dark. The timestamp was from 5 minutes earlier. I called Grant immediately. He didn't hesitate. We're on our way. Don't open the door for anyone. I waited by the window, heart hammering so hard it felt like it might shake the glass. Then another sound. 3 knocks. Soft. Even. Familiar. This time I didn't move. The knocks came again, louder. Clara, a voice said. Mail slurred. Daniel. Go away. I shouted. Let me in, he demanded, voice cracking. We need to talk. Talk. I laughed bitterly. You nearly killed me. He slammed the door with his fist. You don't understand, it's worse than you think. They're watching me now too. I froze. His voice was wild, desperate, but not drunk. Not like before. Who's watching you? He didn't answer. Another thud. Then silence. The police arrived 10 minutes later. He was gone. No car, no footprints, no witnesses. But they found something, an envelope taped to my door. Inside, a single flash drive. Grant examined it under the light. Could be evidence, he said. Could be a trap. I stared at it. Then let's find out. Back at the station, we opened the files. Video footage. Hidden camera angles from my mother's house. Dates spanning years. And in one of them, grainy but unmistakable, Thomas, meeting with men I recognized from classified reports. Foreign agents. My stomach turned. He's been selling intelligence, I whispered. He used my clearance as cover. Grant looked grim. This isn't just family anymore, Clara. This is national security. I felt the floor tilt under me. Everything, the lies, the manipulation, the violence, it all led back to one thing, control. They hadn't tried to silence me because of shame. They'd tried to silence me because I'd been getting too close all along. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt sick. Because no matter what happened next, blood was still blood. And tomorrow, I'd have to face them in court. But that night, before sleep finally took me, I heard it again. 3 knocks, faint, echoing through my memory. And I couldn't tell if it was real this time, or just the sound of the truth, finally demanding to be let in. Courtrooms are supposed to smell like justice. They don't. They smell like fear, cold air, coffee, and sweat disguised by perfume. When I walked in that morning, my palms were trembling, but not from nerves. From resolve. Thomas sat at the defense table in his tailored suit, hands folded like a man too proud to beg. Daniel wasn't beside him. He disappeared again after that night. My mother sat behind them, pale and rigid, eyes locked on me like I'd betrayed her instead of saving us all. Detective Grant nodded as I took the stand. Ms. Hayes, the prosecutor began. You worked for the Department of Federal Security for 7 years, correct? Yes. And in that time, did you ever suspect your stepfather's involvement in the leak of classified information? I didn't want to, I said honestly. But when I started connecting the data, I couldn't ignore it anymore. The room went still. Even Thomas's lawyer stopped writing. The prosecutor tapped the screen, and the video from the flash drive flickered to life. Grainy footage of Thomas exchanging folders, shaking hands under low light. The jury leaned forward. My mother gasped softly, one hand over her mouth. Miss Hayes, the prosecutor continued, is it true that your own home security system recorded this? Yes. And did you report this immediately? I hesitated. Not at first. Because I didn't believe my own family would try to destroy me for knowing the truth. The silence that followed was louder than any shout. When it was the defense's turn, Thomas's attorney rose smoothly. Miss Hayes, you've suffered a head injury, correct? Yes. So your memory might be unreliable? No, I said, steady. It's clearer than ever. He smirked. You have a history of exaggeration, according to your mother. Something inside me snapped. You mean a history of not being heard, I said. There's a difference. He blinked, thrown off. The judge didn't stop me, so I kept going. For years, I was told to keep quiet, that truth would ruin the family. But lies did that all by themselves. My stepbrother attacked me. My mother covered for him. And my stepfather used our name to hide a crime that put lives at risk. If you call that exaggeration, then maybe we all need a new dictionary. The courtroom erupted in whispers. I didn't look at Thomas. I didn't need to. For the first time, he looked small, like a man who finally realized silence couldn't save him anymore. The verdict came 2 weeks later. Guilty. On all counts. Thomas was sentenced to 15 years. Daniel never showed up to the sentencing. They found him months later in another state, using a fake name. My mother, she never spoke to me again. I heard she sold the house. I didn't go back. I moved to a smaller city near the coast. Different job, different life. For a long time, I didn't tell anyone who I used to be. At night, I'd still hear it sometimes, the sound of 3 knocks in my dreams. Not from fear anymore. From memory. From the echo of everything I'd survived. One evening, a few years later, there was a real knock on my door. 3 times. For a second, my heart stopped. But when I opened it, it was Detective Grant Older, smiling faintly, holding a small envelope. "I thought you'd want to see this," he said. Inside was a copy of the case closure notice. The final statement read, "Operation resolved. Primary witness, C. Hayes." I stared at it for a long time. "So it's really over?" He nodded. "You did what most people wouldn't have had the courage to do." I smiled, the kind that comes after too much crying. Courage or stubbornness, sometimes they look the same. He laughed softly. "Take care of yourself, Clara." When he left, I stood there for a while, listening to the quiet. The sea breeze moved through the curtains, carrying that salt and rain smell I'd learned to love. For years, I'd thought silence was something to fear, a punishment. But standing there, I realized silence could also mean peace. I walked to the window, watching the tide roll in, each wave folding into the next like it was trying to erase everything that came before. And for the first time in my life, I didn't flinch at the sound of quiet. Because this silence wasn't empty. It was mine. Still, before turning in for the night, I glanced at the door, an old habit that refused to die. My fingers brushed against the wood, tracing where the knocks might have once echoed. Then, softly, I whispered, "Thank you." Not to them. Not to anyone. Just to the girl I used to be, the one who refused to stay silent when everyone told her to. The truth had cost me a family. But it gave me something better. Myself.